Hey y'all, we live on YouTube. Let me add in my title for TikTok. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to add this title. Today we're talking about 7 ways to overcome imposter syndrome and self-sabotage. So, let me go ahead and hit the live. Hold on, y'all. Hey y'all, what's up? This is what happens when you dual stream. It's like doing a lot. It's doing a lot. But let me make sure that I put my comment down here and I pin it just in case somebody comes in and they're like, what are we talking about? What's going on? All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, hey, y'all, what's up? My name is Kelly Marie. I am a certified mindset and business coach. I'm NLP certified, which stands for neuro linguistic programming, meaning that when we talk about coaching, we don't just talk about your business strategically. We don't just talk about your life strategically. It's not all just emotions. We are actually looking at how your brain processes information and how you process emotions, things that you may be harboring and holding on to. Okay, so tonight we're talking about ways to overcome imposter syndrome and self-sabotage. So let's talk a little bit about why I decided to put these two things together because they are different. Okay. So, imposter syndrome is when you are qualified to do something, but you still feel like a fraud. Okay. So, you're qualified to do that thing, but for whatever reason, you still feel like a fraud. Like when you get in the room, you're nervous. When you have something that, hold on, let me grab this safety pin right quick. Because I'm looking at this live like my tatas are doing the most. And that's not what we're here for. This ain't that kind of channel. Okay. Hold on, y'all. Y'all see how I had a safety pin? I had one literally right there. I safety pin myself. Listen. So when we're talking about imposter syndrome, we're talking about when you walk into a room and you feel like you're not qualified, even though you are qualified. So let's say like you have the degrees, you have the accolades, you went to school, you have the certification, or even not even all of those pieces of paper. Let's just say like you're in a situation where like you know what you're doing, you clearly know what you're doing. But when you get around other people, it feels a little bit like, or even like when you have to do things like announce yourself, or you have to lead a meeting, or you have to go speak on stage, or you have to teach someone else something, you may start to question yourself where you're like, am I really qualified to do this? Like, am I really that girl? But you really are that girl, right? That's imposter syndrome. It's you when you are feeling like a fraud, even though you are not. Okay. And then that leads us to self sabotage, and how these two things connect together is because self sabotage is when you do certain things that make it harder for you to succeed. Now, if you have set a goal for yourself and you're like wondering like, why would I do that? Like, why would I self-sabotage myself? Like, I know that I've set this goal, I know that I want to, accomplish this thing. Why would I sabotage myself? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? It sounds insane. Like, it really sounds crazy, but in all honesty, it's not. It happens more than often than you think. A lot of times we self-sabotage when we have an underlying fear of success, or an underlying fear of failure, or when we think we're not going to be able to handle the benefits and the blessings that are coming on the back end of showing up. And so you will start to do things that make it harder for you to succeed. So, for example, if you have an issue with spending money, like if you spend money like it ain't nothing, okay, that could be self sabotage. Sometimes it's just I'm not going to say sometimes, it's just you are learning how to budget, but it always goes deeper than that. It's never just surface level. Like people don't just do things just because. Like every single decision you make, there is some underlying thing that is going on inside of you. Okay. And that's just how I think as a coach and how I see things when I talk to people. I'm like, you do know that 95% of your behavior is subconscious, meaning that you started doing this one day and you just kept doing it and kept doing it. And now it's just you do it without thinking, right? Like it's a habit that you have. And so if you know, I want to, let's say, for example, I want to buy a house, but you have a hard time with saving money or budgeting, then you have an underlying behavior or an underlying thought that is causing you to spend money over and over and over and over again, uncontrollably, and you're sabotaging yourself because you've already stated that you have a goal of buying a house or buying a new car or upgrading your living room furniture, whatever it is. Once you have made the decision, like, this is going to be my goal, anything that is stopping you from getting to that goal, including the behaviors that you're doing, that's self-sabotage. Okay. But for most people, it comes in the form of like overspending money, overeating, really anything where you're overindulging, not showing up or not showing up fully. A lot of us will like play small. We talk down on ourselves with negative self-talk. That's self-sabotage. And so anytime I have a client come to me and say, this is my goal and I'm struggling to get to this goal because of this reason, there is some type of self-sabotaging behavior that is happening because you can do anything through Christ. Like literally, it says that in the Bible, right? So if the Bible says I can do anything through Christ who strengthens me, then why is it that when I set a goal, I'm struggling to hit that goal? Because you're sabotaging yourself. Okay. And listen, I'm a faith-based coach. And a lot of people be like, it's the devil. The devil is stopping me. It's the spirits. The spirits is stopping me. Sometimes that is the case, but sometimes it's just you. Okay. So you have to have spiritual discernment. And this is where having a coach helps, right? You have to have spiritual discernment to decipher, yes, I'm under spiritual attack, or no, I'm not under spiritual attack. And it's just my lack of discipline, or I am struggling with self-sabotaging behaviors, or I'm struggling with generational curses, or I've adopted self-sabotaging behaviors somewhere in my lineage, and that is now affecting my ability to reach my goals. And literally, it goes that deep because think about it. If you have a hard time saving money and that's stopping you from being able to reach your goal of purchasing a house, you probably adopted that mindset from a parent. And maybe that parent thought, or maybe your parent never had a house. And so you're going to be the first person in your family who owns a house or owns a piece of property. Like, we're talking about you're breaking a generational curse. Moving from not ownership to ownership is breaking a generational curse. Okay. And so if you think in your head, I have to spend my money because it's not going with me when I die, you probably have got that from one of your parents, either your mother or your father or whoever raised you had the thought process, I'm gonna spend this money. And their father or their mother, which is your grandfather or your grandmother, may have had that thought process. I'm going to spend this money, or I'm going to hold on to all my money because that generation, the generation that went through the 30s, 40s, and 50s, their perspective on money is different from the generation that went through the 60s, 70s, 80s versus 90s, 2000s. And now the thought process about money and assets and ownership and business and leadership is completely different. So if you're carrying around the thoughts of your mother or the thoughts of your grandmother or the thoughts of your great grandmother who went through the depression, like those thoughts around money and those ideologies you have around money are not going to serve you in this day and age. Like their houses were like $20, literally. Okay. So we have to really start to look backwards and think, okay, what is it that I'm saying that I want to accomplish? What do I know that I need to do to get there? And what thoughts am I telling myself, or what behaviors or self-unserving things am I telling myself that is making it harder for me to make that happen? Okay. So there are a lot of things that are influencing here. It's not, I'm just going to set a goal and set small milestones and we're just going to go through the milestones and get there. Like, it's a lot deeper than that. And that is why I am a certified mindset and business coach in NLP, because we got to look at the psychology of things. Okay. And then, of course, we have to look at the Bible, because, like, a lot of these things that we be dealing with has already happened, and God already gave us the answer. And He wrote it up in this nice little book for us to review and use as our manual in this lifetime. And that is called the Bible. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump into this. All right. So, number one, the first way to overcome imposter syndrome and self sabotage is to increase your self awareness. Okay. So, recognizing patterns of self sabotaging behavior and then identifying the triggers. We need to know what our triggers are. You need to know what your triggers are. You probably know what your triggers are for things like anger, like, stuff that gets under your skin and gets on your nerves. You also need to know what your triggers are for self sabotaging behavior. Is it that you start spending money once you make a certain amount? Ooh, when I make $1,000 in a day, I just start spending money. Now, if you're not an entrepreneur, that probably sounds really insane, but that happens for a lot of people. Like, they're like, oh, I had $1,000 day, I had a 4-figure day. I'm gonna start spending some money. Oh, I had 3 clients today. I'm gonna go ahead and start spending some money. Okay. It's self-sabotaging behavior, but that is your trigger. Your trigger is when you get to a certain point, the behavior kicks in. All right. Number two, the second way to overcome imposter syndrome and self sabotage is to practice self compassion. Be kind to yourself. You have to be kind to yourself, okay? Because negative self talk is what happens when you're not compassionate to yourself. You have negative self talk. And the negative self talk is not helping you do anything either. Like, it's not helping you overcome feeling like a fraud. It's not helping you overcome feeling like you're undeserving. And so we have to start to give ourselves compassion. If you're a perfectionist, this is for you. Okay. If you're watching this live, send this to a friend who is a perfectionist, who just does the most, and you like, girl, it was good enough 5 minutes ago, right? The friend who's like, I need you to take 10 more pictures of me, even though the 10 pictures you took before look perfectly fine, but she's overthinking what she looks like, right? We have to give ourselves self-compassion, grace, right? We have to give ourselves grace, because you talking down to yourself is not going to make you feel any less like, where's my comment? It's not going to make you feel any less like an imposter or any less like, self-sabotage, right? So that's number two. Number three is actually an exercise. So I want you to take some time, either tonight or tomorrow, to grab a piece of paper, and I want you to write down on that piece of paper your idea of success, and I want you to think about a couple of people in your life who you consider to be important, people that you care about their opinions. We don't care about everybody's opinions, but there are certain people in your life where you do care about their opinions. I want you to grab a sheet of paper, and on the left-hand side, I want you to write your name, and on the right-hand side, I want you to write their names. It can be one person, it could be 2 people, okay? On the right-hand side, I'm sorry, I want you to start on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, I want you to write down what those people define as success. So if it's your mom, what does your mom define as success? And if you don't know, call her up and ask her. If it's your best friend, what does your best friend define as success? If you don't know, text her, call her up and ask, okay, what do they define as success on the right-hand side of the piece of paper? Then on the left-hand side of the piece of paper, I want you to write what you define as success. Okay. And these things are probably going to be different. They should be different. But this is going to give you in your face, non-arguable evidence that you might be living your life according to someone else's definition of success. Mom's definition of success may be doctor, lawyer, therapist, whatever, right? Doctor, lawyer, therapist. That may be mom's definition of success. Your definition of success may be house, two kids, and a husband, right? The career portion of things may not even play into like your idea of success. All right. And when you're writing this down, I want you to look at these few areas for how you define success. I want you to write down how you define success as it relates to your career, how you define success as it relates to your love life, how you define success as it relates to your family and friendships, how you define success as it relates to your health, how you define success as it relates to your spirituality, your relationship with God, and how you define success as it relates to your relationship with yourself and how you view yourself. Okay? Those are the 6 areas I want you to look at. And you may not be able to like really have a definition for success in all 6 of those areas for the people in your life who you care about. If you want to call them up and have that conversation with them, I highly encourage you to do so. But definitely have written down on your paper, like in an ideal life, in a perfect world, this is what my life looks like in each of these 6 areas. Because you need to be very clear, and there needs to be a thick line, not a thin line. There needs to be a thick line in between what you see as success and what other people see as success, because you don't want to accidentally, and a lot of us are already in this space, but you don't want to accidentally get into a space where you are living your life according to someone else's parameters of what success is. And it's very easy to accidentally do that because you spend a lot of the times, people's opinions that you actually care about, you spend a lot of time with those people and talking to them, being around them, having conversations. If you guys are experiencing life together, you can very easily adopt their idea of success, and that gets twisted up into your idea of success, okay? But it has to be separate, because once you start buying into someone else's idea and trying to make it your own, a lot of times it doesn't align, because the vision that God gave you is not the vision that God gave them. Okay? The vision God gave you is not the vision that God gave them. So you're buying into their idea of success. You're actually out of alignment with what God has called you to do. And it's not malice, like you're not doing it on purpose, but it does happen. Okay? So that's number 3. Number 4, the 4th way to overcome imposter syndrome and self-sabotage is to challenge your negative thoughts. I want you to challenge your negative thoughts, okay? Replace your self-defeating thoughts with positive affirmations. Now, here's where this is kind of like a little bit different from what most people will tell you. Most people will be like, hold on, y'all. Most people will be like, oh, hold on. Here we go. Most people would be like, oh, affirmations, say your affirmations in the morning. Okay, that's great, but it doesn't actually help you throughout the day when you're still criticizing yourself to the high heavens. Like when you're still having negative thoughts all throughout the day, those affirmations you read in the morning they don't resonate in the afternoon when you're telling yourself, man, I was so fat after eating lunch, or I'm so bloated. Like it doesn't resonate. What is going to give you a bigger impact as far as actually stopping your negative self-talk or combating your inner critic is going to be you actually keeping what I call a negative self-talk journal. So anytime you say something to yourself that's not positive, you write it down in your notes, or you write it down on a piece of paper. Like you literally track it and you write it down on a piece of paper. And then you ask yourself, if this was my friend, and she said this, what would I say to her that is positive in opposition to what she just said, right? And then you'll say the positive thing back to yourself based off the negative thing. If you do that every single time you have a negative thought, now we're talking about, okay, let me stop downing myself so much. Let me stop talking to myself so negatively. You may not even realize how negatively and how often you criticize yourself until you start doing that exercise all throughout the day. Have a negative thought, write it down. Anything that's not positive, write it down. Write down the opposite of the negative statement. Say it out loud to yourself. Okay, that's number 4. Number five is cultivate a supportive network. So surrounding yourself with positive and encouraging people who can provide guidance and support. Get in community, okay? And I don't want you to get in community based off of history. I want you to get in community based off of your goals. So a lot of our friends, we're friends because we've been friends for a long time. Like we friends because we went to middle school together, went to high school together, went to college together. We lived on the same street. Our parents are friends, so we friends. Like we from the same neighborhood, whatever. It is great to have those friends. As an adult, it's important to also go out of your way to intentionally make friends who have similar goals as you, because that is going to give you a more well-rounded community when it comes to speaking into yourself and actually combating imposter syndrome. Your friends who are your friends based off of history, they may not even know how to approach you when you start to experience imposter syndrome. Because what that means, imposter syndrome, what that means is that you are elevating and you're evolving and your mind is having to catch up with the evolution that's happening. Like your mindset's having to catch up with the evolution of you. And so you've gotten this degree, you've gotten this raise, you've acquired this new information, and you're having to remind yourself, I'm not just homegirl from the block. Like I'm not just little Kelly that grew up and was 6 years old. I'm not just that old girl that I used to be. I'm a new girl now, right? And that mismatch is imposter syndrome. When all of your friends are friends that are based off of historical pretext, they know you as that person too. So they may not even be able to help you with imposter syndrome unless they're going through it as well. Okay. When you make friends based off of goals, and you should really have both, right? But when you make friends intentionally based off of similar goals and similar paths, like life paths, they're going to be able to see in you the future because you guys are connected by what's coming, not what's been. And so they can see a different version of you than what you can see right now. All right. So cultivate a supportive network. Number six, create a routine. I love routines. I'm a systems girl. I love routines, but I want you to establish a structured routine that makes it easier to hit your goals and your productivity. So when you're looking at your goals and where you're trying to go this year, and wanting to not feel so much like a fraud when you're showing up where you would like to show up this year. Okay. You are going to have to create routines and habits around the new version of yourself. For example, I want to lose 30 pounds. I was going to say this year, but I really like to lose 30 pounds in the next 3 or 4 months. Okay. If I want to lose 30 pounds, there are a lot of things that I can do to lose 30 pounds, right? But if I want to make sure that I lose that 30 pounds, like if I want it to be a given, this 30 pounds will be gone in 4 months, regardless. I don't care what's going on, right? If that's the case, I have to start creating habits and routines that support my goal of losing 30 pounds. So I've created this new routine of eating 2 salads a day. No matter how much I eat during the day, 2 of those salads have to be fully raw vegan salads. That is a habit that I have initiated forming. It's going to take some time to form it because I have to do it consistently over and over again in order for it to become a habit. But I have to consistently do that over and over again in order to hit my goal. It's going to support me hitting my goal. There's a lot of other things that I need to do on top of that. But if I start to stack my habits, like if I create a habit of walking 10 minutes outside, 10 minutes after I eat lunch, like those habits and habit stacking is going to make it a lot easier for me to step into my next season without the imposter syndrome and without the self-sabotaging behaviors. All right. And then last but not least, number 7, seek professional help. Now, you knew I was going to add this to the list. You knew I was going to add it. Consider working with a life coach, okay? Life coaches are not just for in a crisis. Like, I promise you, it seems like every time someone comes to me for a mindset issue, they're literally having an identity crisis. Do not wait until you start having an identity crisis to work with a life coach. Do it beforehand. As soon as you decide what your goal is, as soon as you decide that you're ready to move into your next season, that you're ready to elevate, that you're ready to become the highest version of yourself or a new woman, when you make that decision, that's when you say, okay, let me go hire a life coach because I am your accountability partner in making sure that you follow through on everything that you said you were going to do. I am your accountability partner in making sure that you don't take anything less than what you deserve, anything less than what you're worth. I am your accountability partner that is here to remind you of who you said you wanted to be in the next 90 days, or who you said you wanted to be in the next 6 months, or by the end of this year. So if your goals are so important to you that you cannot afford to fail another year, you need to hire me as your life coach, period. Right? Like, if you feel like our learning styles don't mesh, that's cool too. Find a different life coach. But hiring a life coach is going to ensure that you get a lot closer, if not all the way or surpass the goals that you have set for yourself personally, not just in the business realm, but personally. What type of woman do you want to be? Who do you want to attract? What type of relationships do you want to have? Whether it's career relationships or romantic relationships or family relationships, like what do you see your life looking like? And what are we doing to get you to that place? And who's reminding you every day that you're that girl? Who's reminding you every day that you are evolving? Who is backing you up when you said you wasn't going to go back to that man? Who's backing you up when you said you was going in to ask for a raise at work and you were going to be firm in your number? Who's backing you up on that? Who's backing you up on the fact that you said, hey, I'm going to go out and make new friends? Who's helping you make sure that that happens? Your life coach. Okay. So if you're serious about evolving into a new woman and walking into a new season, you need that level of support. All right. You need that level of support. So that is all I have for y'all today. I will see y'all next time. Make sure you can link in the description box and or in my bio to book a discovery call. I'm accepting new clients and I would love to be your accountability and be your supporter. All right. See y'all later.